Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Autist Circle number 13, part 2.
Yeah, attempt number two. Attempt attempt number two, but really we're 4 weeks behind on this one.
Yeah,
It's just been a myriad. It's like I've been a comedy of errors going on. So,
I'm
like
just
4
one
weeks ago,
to blame OBS mostly.
well, the last one was definitely OBS. We'll blame OBS for that one. 2 weeks, was it 2 weeks prior to that? No, 3 weeks prior to that, you had something going on, and then 2 weeks prior to that, I had something going on, and then last week,
OBS. So
or
I'm just
prior
going
to
to blame
this,
OBS.
last week
Even
OBS.
us
So
going off and doing things that we had to do, that's technically OBS's fault too.
that's OBS's fault. So yeah, we're here today. We are going to talk about F.J. Haynes, Frank Jay Haynes. He is the. We'll switch over to the title card here. He is the was the official photographer of Yellowstone and the Northern Pacific Railroad in the late 1800s, contemporary to Russell and also somewhat contemporary to Bierstadt as well. Um, but before we jump in on Haynes, I just we're going to go talk about early photography a bit. Just to it'll put a finer point on what amazing things this guy did. So we'll start out talking about the camera obscura. So camera obscura, it's a natural phenomenon that occurs when light passes through a small hole in a darkened area, and it projects an inverted image through the hole. This was first documented in the first documentation we can find of it, contemporarily, is all the way back in the 5th century BC. It was observed by Chinese, some dudes in China, and also in ancient Greece. It was also known in ancient Greece. But the first scientific studies of this date back to the 10th century in Iraq and Persia during the Golden Age, the Islamic Golden Age, when they actually, practice science and stuff.
Okay, so that's why it's the 10th century. Got it.
Yeah. And it was by Ibn al-Haytham. Al-Hazan is what he's known now as. His work, The Book of Optics, it is the work he did there became foundation for a lot of optics that we do now. It was one of the first serious scientific studies of optics. They can't hear me.
Uh-oh. Can the rest of chat hear me is the question.
Yeah. Oh, why isn't my...
OBS strikes again.
OBS, you son of a bitch.
I think it is quite literally become, bullshit.
Right? God damn it. Okay.
All right, so
we're gonna have to back up. So you guys can hear Bleach okay, though, right?
Yeah, that LGM can hear me fine, but apparently not.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, OBS lost my mic output. Ugh. Christ. Anyhow, what a tremendous pain in the ass. I just like to go on record and say, kiss my ass, OBS. Which is really just my own feelings. Anyhow, back to this. So Frank Jay Haynes, the official photography of Northern Pacific Railroad and Yellowstone. First, we're going to talk about camera obscura. I'll rehash that. So this was a natural phenomenon that occurs when light passes through a small hole into a darkened area, and it projects an inverted image through the hole. And it was first documented back in the 5th century BC in China, and also in ancient Greece in the 3rd and 4th centuries. The first scientific studies of this phenomenon date back to the 10th century in Iraq and Persia during the Islamic Golden Age.
Insert recycled joke from 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, back when they did science. It was a book written, studied originally by Ibn al-Haytham, who is known as Al-Hazan as an author. His work, The Book of Optics, became the foundation for a lot of modern for modern optics. He didn't have a lot of names for stuff, but he had a lot of data and information on it.
Mhm.
So so during the 12th century, his book was translated into Latin and brought into Europe.
So that was
So
probably one
during
of
12th,
the fruits of the Crusades kind of time period where a lot of
yeah,
things got introduced or
likely
reintroduced.
so. There was also a lot of trade
Hmm.
too, which would have brought some, but yeah, likely the Crusades. Um, so yeah, the translations made their way to Europe, where they helped inspire people like Kepler and Da Vinci, who further clarified the principle. Da Vinci further clarified the principle in his 1502 book, the Codex Atlanticus. And then the earliest use of the term was in 1604 in the book
I Vitellum
Vitelionemin.
Ferropomenia. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. By Kepler, um, which was one of his scientific treatises. Um, during the during the Renaissance era, I just have this picture here because this shows how they were kind of used during that Renaissance era. They would make a big box and then put a pinhole in it, and then be in the dark, and then use the image that's projected, and then use that as this way to paint their images. This was pretty common. Like it wasn't an incredibly uncommon thing for people to do.
And
Um,
talking about the drawing boxes and whatnot. I
yeah,
for some vague reason remember some reference to that being kind of like a pastime of the aristocracy in some story where yeah they all would take turns trying to draw something in the drawing
in the
box, and
Dropbox.
it's like that's mind-blowingly idle times.
God, and that would, I mean, honestly, that would be kind of like a brilliant, fun party trick if you were gonna,
Yeah.
but this is kind of a representation of of the kind of stuff that was later used in later areas. 1500s, they added lenses, and later there were other things added to it to help sharpen the detail. And these were kind of the early predecessors to modern cameras, because basically all it is, I mean, it's effectively the same thing.
Yeah.
The only thing it doesn't have is the film.
Well, and I think the thing to throw out there for anyone who stumbles on this that isn't as brilliant as our regular audience. Um, yeah, I'm buttering you up. Hit a like button. It is that it's really showcasing the reflective nature of light and the refractions and how long that knowledge has been nascent in humanity is also fascinating. But yeah,
Yeah,
I just find it
yeah,
really cool, and it also shows until you could perfect something to capture that image chemically, which I'm sure is the next slide. I might have looked ahead. Um,
yep,
it's
yeah,
all relying on using that light and just inverting it and flipping it over, and the human brain having to do the processing, where the chemical solution will fix a lot of that for dullards, shall we say,
right,
like me.
yeah, yeah. You're right, and I think, crap, I totally spaced where I was going. Anyhow, um, I think that, well, it's fascinating to me that this knowledge goes back over 2,000 years, um, because, like you said, it's a nascent knowledge. But like they've understood, and they looked into it and understood these light things so much that um, it has for so long, and to me, like we look back at people 2,000 years ago and we think about them as like so primitive, like ancient people as primitive, but they weren't. And I think that's one thing that we've actually kind of put a fine point on throughout this series, is that the people from history weren't primitive. Um, they were as civilized and sometimes more civilized than we are now. And their knowledge, even though it wasn't as comprehensive as it is now, their knowledge is what led us to where we are now. So we're standing on the shoulders of giants with this.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
And I do like the fact that is the constant theme of this series, going through and looking at these magnificent pieces of arts. Yeah.
yeah,
Speak well,
this
educated
work.
and cultured I am. But yeah, it's just so cool to
Okay,
see how this develops. So I guess we
yeah.
should move on to the next.
So, speaking of development, we're going to talk about the development of early photography now. So, as you said, like people, it's affixing the image in a static medium. Like photosensitive materials have been widely observed. It's a widely observed phenomenon, especially in silver salts because they experimented with those a lot.
Hmm.
In the 1700s, through the work of German and Swedish scientists, it was discovered that silver chloride was a particularly susceptible material to um, photosensitive material. So, in 1833 in France, Louis Daguerre invented a photo process which involved using a thin silver plated copper sheet coated with a layer of silver iodide, then developed by heating mercury to 75 degrees Celsius, which sounds super healthy,
Oh yeah.
and then washed in heated salt water to remove the exposed silver, leaving the photographic image behind. So, and these were known as daguerreotypes, and this is what we're seeing here.
Yep.
It's
And
a
later would develop into tin types. Um,
yep.
the fascinating thing with this is with the silver iodide, because you know, old mirrors are made out of silver, so they knew the reflective
Hmm.
properties. So it's just interesting how they went from, we know this thing reflects light while applied to glass or other metals, and then to
Right.
go and make that jump to Daguerre's process. That's just so cool to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just hearing the materials they use just blows my mind. Like heating mercury to 75 degrees, which I know they did. Like I know they used mercury in lab equipment, stuff like that. And maybe that again just speaks to my own ignorance,
Well,
of course.
and
But
hat making.
it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's
Oh
where we
yeah,
get mad as a
they used it
hatter.
a
Yeah.
lot
Oh yeah.
and gold mining, all sorts of stuff. Um, so Daguerre was working on an actual photo process to create an image that wasn't a negative. This was the photo it was taken. Um, at the same time in England, a man named William Henry Fox Talbot was working on silver salt coated paper, which he used to create a negative image, and those were known as calotypes, um, and they were used to make prints.
Hmm.
So instead of just being an image themselves, they were a negative image that was then used to make prints of the image. Um, Now the problem with these things, maybe not the problem, but one of the
The
things they had to
limits.
overcome, yeah, the limits, yeah, exactly. They're stuck in a studio, right? And the chemicals that they needed, like you're not going to carry around material to boil fucking mercury with you everywhere you go.
Wait, you mean I'm the
I
only
mean,
one that does that? Damn.
yeah, maybe some people, but generally speaking, people aren't going to do that. And so now we're going to jump ahead a little bit and talk about the wet plate and dry plate process. Now, this was the process that Frank Haynes used, FJ Haynes used.
Hmm.
Um, Early in his career, Haynes used a wet plate colloidal process. Now, this was a really crazy, when you consider that he's hauling all this equipment and all these chemicals and all this gear out with him
Hmm.
to take these photos. Like this process, it makes it seem even more amazing. Okay, so first the glass is cleaned, and then it has to be cleaned and polished. Then a thin film of collodion is added to it, which is usually nitrocellulose dissolved in either ether or alcohol. Next, the plate is dipped in a bath of silver nitrate to create a light sensitive coating. And then while it's still wet, They put it in a placed in a holder, and then it's put into the camera where it is then exposed for up to 60 seconds. It can be as little as 3 seconds or up to 60 seconds, depending on how sharp they want the image. Once that's done, the exposed plate is immediately developed in a portable darkroom using an iron sulfate developer solution,
Mhm.
which I'm sure it doesn't give you cancer at all.
No,
Um,
no, not at all. Not at all. Doesn't
and
stain
then
your fingers either.
right, yeah. And then finally, the plate was washed in a sodium thiosulfate or potassium fucking cyanide to fix the image to the plate. Um, and then after the image was fixed, then they rinsed off the undeveloped material and dried the plate.
and
He
and
did this from 1875 to 1884
and
ish.
since I have had, wet plate photographs taken of me, um, and it was an amazing experience. The guy who did it did wet plate and dry plate, also did proper daguerreotypes as well,
Yeah,
and it's so fascinating because it's you have to stay absolutely still. And you see, for portraiture, they've got these clamps so people can kind of rest their heads in them so that
right.
it looks natural. Because if you give even the slightest twitch or muscle spasm, it will make, even if you don't
It
think
blurs
you've
it.
moved, it's just horrendously blurred. It's
Right.
hilarious how sensitive this is, but we're talking about, light moving, and also watching the process occur when, after the photographer put it through the first round to kind of fix the image initially, and then watching it develop. I mean, it's very much like the old Polaroids. It's watching that
Oh yeah.
develop, but also realizing that it's either on a piece of glass or a piece of metal, and that you can use that infinitely for either, zooming in, uh, because if it's a non-digitized image, there's no
Yeah.
pixelization, so you can go and just blow things up to huge scales and still
Right.
has the detail. It's a beautiful process to watch.
Yeah, it's like vector imaging. It's really interesting.
Oh yeah. And also, the smell is a very unique process, especially when they're using these old systems. Um,
I can only imagine, dude.
it's like you have to have a strong stomach in the
I,
first
I
time you
would
get
I would bet.
exposed.
Right. Yeah, I bet. So in 1884, he switched to the dry plate process. And that was using pre-prepared sheets of glass, usually coated with silver bromide, suspended in a thin layer of gelatin. And these had a benefit because you could expose them later,
Hmm.
or expose them and then develop them later. And it really obviated the need to carry around this giant backpack full of incredibly dangerous and toxic chemicals. Um, Now, of course, because wet plate was it was the standard before before dry plate
Hmm.
kicked on. The technology was actually better at first. So, like you're saying, the wet plate image provides incredibly sharp images. But after a while, dry plate did catch up to it.
Yeah, yeah,
Of course,
it's
like you would expect with the technology.
like with digital photography now. It went
Yeah.
from, 12 megapixels was considered good back in like 2003, and now we have whatever it is now. It's just,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's insane the resolution of images we have now.
yeah, yeah. And I also will say this technology and like the wet plate, it was also like taken into combat zones, just kind of like that
Yeah,
last bit. It's, yeah, the American
it
Civil
was.
War is probably the first truly heavily photographed war. Now there's some, I think a little bit in the Crimean War happened, and then of course, the Franco-Prussian War, and later with the continual development. But the individuals doing this were so confident in their skill they could go into some place where they're being shot at and still take pictures and develop things. So
Oh yeah,
it's very
absolutely.
delicate, but there was also a massive, you know, understanding of what it took to protect these items that I think we kind of lose now, because everything's just so rugged because of our transistors and solid state devices. But anyway, that's just a little
Yeah.
unnecessary aside.
Nope, you're right. LGM, you got a good point there. The health risks that pioneers of technology took in developing the stuff we take for granted today. Yeah, I mean, we would never have what we have now if it were not for these guys who, maybe somewhat foolishly and recklessly. Oftentimes, I think some of them did understand the risks in a way um, of what they're doing, and it's, again, like you said, these guys were so proud of their technical prowess and skill, and I believe rightly so. And so, on that note, we're going to actually jump into the subject of today's, the man of the day, Frank Jay Haynes. He was born in 1853 on this October 28th in Saline, Michigan, to Levi H. and Caroline Oliphant Hayes. His father ran a mercantile store, and that's where uh, FJ got his first, like, uh, his first experience working in business, which would come to serve him, a lot later in life. But while he was young, his family moved to Detroit, where he spent time with a photo studio owned by a Mrs. Gillette. And that's where he first became interested in photography. This was a newer science, a newer field, and it was really up and coming, right? And so uh, he was kind of getting in on a new thing on the ground floor of some amazing technological developments, I
Hmm.
guess. So,
Well, it's
but
kind
as
of
a young man, oh,
like
go ahead,
someone
dude.
getting in on coding at a young age. Like, yeah, just
Right.
kind of makes
Yeah.
sense.
He found something that he was really passionate about when he was young. And, but as a young man, he became a traveling salesman. It took him to Ripon, Wisconsin, where he apprenticed at Dr. William H. Lockwood's Temple of Photography for 16 months. So, William H. Lockwood, often styled as Dr. Lockwood, um, he ran a photographic business or a studio in Wisconsin, a really big one. And while it wasn't officially called the Temple of Photography, that's what it was known as,
Hmm.
especially amongst photographers, it because it was such a great place to study and train, and there was so much, like, people came in and out. You can think of it almost like Paul Rubens' studio in a
Oh,
way.
okay, yeah, yeah.
It's a place where people could go and apprentice and learn the craft and learn, because it's not like you could intuit, oh yeah, boil this shit in mercury for, an hour. They can't, you can, so, and they weren't all trying to reinvent the wheel all the time. It
Hmm.
was grounded and built technology that they worked on, and artistry. Um, so working there also, because he was such a talented portrait artist there, that gave him it gave him quite a bit of a reputation there. So in 1876, he established his own studio. Typo there. He
Huh.
established his own studio in Moorhead, Minnesota, um, where he did some landscape photography, but most of the photography was portraiture. People would come in and get their portraits taken, but that's exactly what most old paintings were too.
Hmm.
The vast majority, and we don't see them, like, we don't review them ourselves, but the vast majority of paintings that Rembrandt did were portraits. Of Jordan's, same thing, portraits. Rubens, same things, portraits. We looked at some of their amazing, large scale pieces, but the vast majority of their work is someone coming in and saying, hey, I'm a famous important person, I want a picture of me to hang on my wall, I
Mhm.
want a picture of my wife to hang on my wall. And early photography was absolutely no different.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, shit, people still go. I mean, people don't go to JC Penney's for the photos anymore, but we did forever. And
Yeah.
people still go get family photos taken.
Well, and
And
just to throw a more macabre, little tidbit on this, when they would take photographs of the dead to get the retinas to look correctly, they'd usually poke out the iris, so the eyes look more natural rather than clouded over.
yeah,
Very
yeah, it's
ghoulish,
weird.
but at the same time, that's where the technology went, and that's what people were fascinated by. And I really like this Temple of Photography, kind of meme name where it really does tell you it's so groundbreaking. It's kind of almost in the mystic realm for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, that's a good way to put it. And I just want to point out in this picture here, you'll see this is Haynes. He's on the side of, I think, the Columbia River here.
Hmm.
Um, he's using it's a stereoscopic camera right there.
Yep.
They stereoscopic images were incredibly popular, and we talked about that with Bierstadt,
Yes, for
because he
his
took stereo images,
and his
and his
brothers were
brothers,
big into that too.
yeah, like that's where they made a lot of their money. That's a lot of money was made on stereoscopes, or stereoscopic photography. Um,
And yeah,
and
it's
so, and
worth noting with that, yeah, because it creates kind of this artificial 3D image. Um, they were still popular right up until the end of the First World War. As I've
right,
seen stereoscopic images where it's like Fort Vaux at the Battle of Verdun taken in stereoscope. So it's not until recently that that technology died out, and to see Haynes as probably one of the more prolific pioneers out in the American wilds doing this is just awesome. I mean, it really can't be
yeah,
expressed how cool this is.
it's really neat. Um, like the whole, I don't know. I'll keep going on about the stereos. Talk a little bit more about that later. Anyhow, so in 1878, he married Lily Snyder, who was someone he worked with at Dr. Lockwood's.
Hmm.
They had a daughter and two sons, the youngest of which is named Jack Ellis, and he would go on to inherit its father's business, which lasted for a really long time, and it might still be in their family.
Huh.
In 1879, he expanded his business to the Fargo area because Fargo was starting to grow. And remember, this was Western, this was pioneer times and shit. So,
Oh yeah.
these guys were just like westward expansion was just barely happening, for a lot of this stuff. There was some railroads going through, but not a ton of them. And um, we'll talk more about this later too. But his primary role in life was to serve as like kind of a, you could almost call him a propagandist for the railroad.
Hmm.
The same way that, we've called the Baroque artists and all that propaganda, church propaganda,
Right.
and Bierstadt was, Western expansionist propaganda, whatever. It's very similar to that. It was railroad propaganda. It was marketing though. It wasn't propaganda.
Yeah.
So,
It's indistinguishable, really. That's,
right.
that is
But he took,
interesting.
and so while he was in, while he was in Dakota or Fargo, he traveled. He liked to go out and explore, like many people did at his time, and take photos of the frontier. Um, and his photos of the frontier really got him a lot of notoriety, and that's ultimately what brought him the attention, or brought the eye of Northern Pacific Railroad on him, because they needed promotional imagery for the brochures, investor materials, and PR materials, and stuff. Like I said, just propaganda stuff to get people to come out west,
Hmm.
stuff to make people want to ride their railroads. Um, while he was doing while he was out with the railroads, mostly he used a black canvas tent as a dark room, kind of similar to the pictures we had before.
Hmm.
um but later in life, he actually ended up getting a car, or a or
Yeah, it was like
a
a Pullman,
dark
wasn't
room
it?
car.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
and the if for especially our European audience that don't understand what a Pullman is, um, it's a specific style of architecture of car, so it maximizes the ventilation and actually is relatively comfortable for the high heat moving through the high desert. So
Yep,
small little
yep.
useless tidbit, but it's fascinating,
Right.
especially with seeing that train car of his, because there are photographs of it out there. It's really remarkable that that is his mobile studio. It's just so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And so even before he got that, though, when he was out there with just a tent doing this stuff, like it really proved it was how he proved to the people there, Northern Pacific, like how, first off, doing what he was doing was incredibly, one, dangerous because of the
Hmm.
poisonous chemicals, difficult because of the fragility of all the freaking equipment. This shit wasn't GoPros, man. He's doing this on giant plates of glass, like, almost paper sheet size plates of glass in some instances. Um, and it really, I think that speaks to his ambition,
Hmm.
and just, and obviously they saw him as reliable and very capable, and the leaders of the railroad loved him as a result of it. And of course, because his image was so beautiful, that they really brought more attention to the railroad. So, and that was during 1880. So in 1881, he used his connections, um, they got through the railroad,
Hmm.
to try to, first off, he tried to become the official photographer of Yellowstone. He asked, yes, uh, then Secretary of State. Crap, I didn't write that down. Anyhow, um, he asked him if he could be appointed as the official photographer, and while they couldn't, make him an official photographer because it wasn't something they could do. They did grant him a lease for a studio in Yellowstone.
And that would have been
So,
in Mammoth Hot Springs, which is at the north end, if I remember correctly.
yep, exactly. Um, in his first, his first 3 months there, or his first 2 months at the park, he looked at all them. He traveled all around the park, which is huge,
Hmm.
right? Yellowstone is freaking huge. He's not like hopping in a car and driving around. They're either riding horses or hiking to all of these places. He's not just riding horses and hiking, because during this whole time, he took over 200 photographs using wet plate, 200 wet plate photographs. So in a 2 month period, that's 60 days. He did over 200 of these crazy glass plate photographs. Now, 200 of those glass plates I mean, that's hundreds of pounds of glass,
Hmm.
right? And so he's got all of these glass plates, and he's got, that he's developed and all this stuff. And he had his own darkroom wagon too that he developed besides the railroad car,
Hmm.
but he had another wagon that he used, kind of as like his mobile lab. So in 1883, President Chester A. Arthur visited the park to recuperate from stress of being a mediocre president, and Haynes was selected as the official photographer for the trip. Took a bunch of he documented the trip
Hmm.
for the national media. And in 1884, his studio was finally made official, and they built their first permanent Haynes picture shop at Mammoth Hot Springs, like you said. And this wasn't just a studio for photography. This was also a concession stand.
Hmm.
So they sold not just photographs of the park, and prints and whatnot, but they sold like a guidebook. The Haynes guidebook was really popular um, later, but I mean, then they sold other stuff. So it was a concessions place,
Hmm.
um, which I think it speaks to Haynes' business acumen because this is what his original plan was by trying to become the official photographer. He wanted to be able to get official station and be able to market and kind of capitalize on the beauty
Hmm.
there.
Well,
Help, which
it's also interesting that you mentioned concessions specifically with Haynes, because he's essentially established the model that all the concessionaires in the National Park Service use to this day, which is really cool.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and it ran seasonally to align with tourist season too. So exactly like that. It wasn't a year-round thing. Because of course hardly anybody's coming to Yellowstone when there's 6 feet of snow.
I mean, maybe
Um,
some of us have, and it's really cool, but some of us also got stalked
yeah.
by wolves. So,
So in 1884, I say this, in 1885 to 1887, he worked with Northern Pacific Railroad repeatedly. They hired him over and over to to do stuff. That's where they got him his darkroom car. And he captured during that time is also when he captured so many iconic scenes from the West and Yellowstone, a couple of which we'll look at here today. Um, Transitioning from wet plate to dry plate allowed him to capture more dynamic scenes,
hmm.
um, just by the nature of the photography. And in December in 1886, he was selected to accompany an Arctic explorer in his expedition to Yellowstone. He faced a lot of challenges with the wet plate because, of course, materials crystallize and freeze,
Hmm.
and it's hard to work with, wet stuff when it's crystallized and frozen. Um, they faced a lot of challenges there. He himself almost died during this trip, and they did lose some people. The expedition started out with a lot more people than it ended with, and in the end, it was only Haynes and two other people who finally completed the full circuit of the trip.
Wow.
Um, Over 29 days, they traveled 200 miles in a Yellowstone winter. Um, and survived. And he captured a lot of pictures at this time. I mean, this is a picture taken from them. They had so he uh yeah, he brought many haunting images. I've written down here, captured many haunting images of barren landscape of
Hmm.
the winter in Yellowstone, which is an amazing thing that many people will never get to witness firsthand.
Oh yeah.
Um,
And,
like
and again,
I said, this
he's
is
not just going out and seeing this himself, but he's the photography equipment that he's hauling out there. I don't think we can beat people over the head with that enough of how remarkable that is.
right, right, absolutely. So in by 1888, he'd fully transitioned to dry plate. And then his studio, they really started producing a lot of stereo views, cards, postcards, prints, stuff like that. It was really a booming time for for both tourism because all the publicity from the president's visit, from the railroad brochures, all that stuff, and just westward expansion in general was bringing a lot more people to the area. Montana was growing like crazy, as we covered during during our Russell stream.
Hmm.
Oh, hey, Yiz. It was a crap. Oh my! I lost my train of thought. Anyhow, um,
Just one thing of note that,
oh yeah,
I
so
don't know how many plates he started off with, but the fact that he went out and brought 42 back, that's still remarkable for the time.
yeah, that is. It's really yeah, it's amazing to think that he's carrying plates of glass covered in chemicals and stuff out. Um, out into the friggin' into the wilderness, into Yellowstone, was really an amazing thing. So in eight by 1890, or I say they were so successful. The cards, the stereo views, all the shit we talked about, they were so successful that they actually started publishing. That's when they started publishing the Haynes Guide.
which is
And let's see if I got an
some of
image
my
of it here.
favorite
Nope, I don't have a picture of the
style of
Haynes Guide.
art, and you did include one.
I got it here. I didn't put the picture. Let me pull the picture over here. There we go. No, no, get over. Wrong way. Get over here. Oh, the Haynes Guide. So this is the Haynes Guide complete handbook at the Yellowstone National Park. This is what they used to look like. Of course, using the iconic geyser image as the cover. The geyser was of course, it's one of the most recognizable things about Yellowstone.
Oh yeah.
Everybody knows Old Faithful. It's not like I mean, there's tons of things in Yellowstone, like the pools and everything like that, but everybody knows Old Faithful.
And fun fact: if you're ever there, go have lunch in the old hotel there, and there's a viewing platform, and if you time it right, you can go and you can watch that, and you don't have to be down near the crowds of people, and the ravens and crows put on a very entertaining show while you're waiting for it to go off.
Yeah. So they did also during that time, sorry, I'm gonna jump back to Haynes here. Also during that time, he also worked with the railroad. He continued to work with the railroad for most of his life. In 1895, he largely, I guess he had really largely stopped working for the railroad by then, but had instead of spending as much time in the studio, he was doing more photography. He was more out in the field, and he started working on large panoramic scenes and worked hard to expand the business and popularity. Ultimately, they expanded to 3 locations. So there's 3 locations in Yellowstone Park of the Haynes Picture Shop.
Mhm.
And he continued to work on other projects, whatever, until he retired from field work in 1895. Or 1895, goddamn, 1915. uh, and that's when his son Jack Ellis, that we talked about earlier, he took over the business and ran it, and ran it until his kids took it over. And on March 10th in 1921, Haynes passed away at his home in St. Paul, Minnesota. And then after his death, in his honor in Yellowstone National Park, Mount Albright was renamed to Mount Haynes.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
it's now Mount Haynes in his honor, and that's why.
And just something I doing my own sidebar. Apparently, from the first visit Haynes made to Yellowstone, he made an effort to visit it every year, including the year that he died in 1921.
Yeah,
So that's pretty
yeah,
remarkable.
absolutely. Yeah, he made it a point to go there. He loved Yellowstone. And it shows because his photography it does a great job of really capturing the majesty of the park. And well, with that said,
Let's get into
let's
some of
jump.
the images. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll jump over to the first one, and it's the aforementioned Old Faithful one that we've been talking about. And of course, this is an iconic image that's been I mean, it's in history books. It's been in all sorts of things. Of course, it's the cover of the Haynes Guide. It's literally the face of Yellowstone. This is the image that represents Yellowstone, probably better than any other one. So this was a gelatin on silver print, so a dry plate. And the sheet was about 8 by 5, and it was taken obviously in the Upper Great Basin,
Hmm.
where Old Faithful is, and a large format camera. So this was really a technologically impressive feat. Like, first off, because of the clarity of the image, he got such a great like motion capture.
Hmm.
And
Well, and something just to kind of hit on with this is the transition to dry plate, because otherwise it would have just been this column of steam if it had been one of the older wet plate, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where I said that the dry plate photography allowed more um it allowed more dynamic photography. It allowed him to catch more action type scenes. So this is one of his most easily recognized works, and it's one of the most widely circulated ones. Like I said, it's everywhere. It's been in history books, it's in brochures, it's in tourist stuff, it's in photos, it's wherever. So, so anyhow, with that said, I'm going to jump over to the next one, which is the same image but colored. This is not so they did not have color photography.
Well,
Although there were
it's
some early experiments,
yeah, yeah.
like
That's the
Haynes never used.
the thing is, it
Oh,
was
go ahead.
so technically demanding to have that. They only were
Right.
messing around with it in studios, and it never really went out to the real world until really about the First World War. So
Yeah, it was a long time. And so prior to that, they hand colored prints. And they were very popular. They were very popular to uh or they're very popular with people at the time because, it's like having a painting, right? Like a color photograph is it's a million times better than a black and white one to if you've never seen a color photograph. It just has to be so cool and this was a hand colored print, and it was first a high quality monograph. So first, the way they hand color print, um, they take a high quality image print like they did, like this one, and this is obviously the other image. So he's just taken that same image and created a new print of it, and then once the image is fixed on there. Then they color it, and they colored it in a lot of different ways. They used watercolors, oils, even crayons, sometimes pastels. Um, there was a lot of ways to do it. It's like miniature painting now almost because it was a really precise thing. It wasn't like wasn't like he put it up on a big canvas and painted it in. They had to color the prints, and it was another technically demanding um process, and Haynes was particularly good at it. Like I think this image shows that it does obviously look hand colored, but it looks very natural. The lighting in the background in the sky, I believe, is very natural. The puddles in the ground or in the foreground, they're obviously more vivid than they would be in life, but it's demonstrative, and I think uh just showing the water, it's demonstrative of the scene, I guess I should say. And
that is
so,
something that you could actually see if you're standing at just the right angle. It can look a little
yeah,
closer to this, which is really cool.
yeah, yeah. So once they have the image colorized, they seal it with a coat of shellac, much like, clear coating everything.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and they were coloring. Daguerre was coloring his photos. Daguerreotypes were being colored in the same way. So this was not like a new process or anything. This was something it'd been a popular thing.
And
So,
you go back and you look at some of the Civil War era photographs, and like, people have unnaturally rosy cheeks, and that was experiments in that style of coloration. But,
yeah,
but
exactly,
I will
exactly.
say, Haynes or his people here have a much better eye for for that than
Right.
yeah. Anyway,
So, um, I guess with that, we'll jump on over to the next one, which is one of the photos that Haynes, one of them, another iconic and absolutely gorgeous photos of Yellowstone Park. This is the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone Falls in 1885. So this was another large format image. So he hauled out that big ass camera,
Hmm.
um, and took this on this was actually an albumin process plate. So it wasn't a wet plate. It was another dry plate. And the image, when actually fully developed, is 16 and a half by 22, which is
That's
really
big.
fucking big for a photograph.
Yeah.
That's huge for a photo. So the albumin process was similar to the colloidal process that we talked about, that I talked about similar earlier, where they had colloidal with the colloidal stuff instead of the gelatin. Instead, they used albumin
Mhm.
instead of the gelatin for that, and the egg whites mixed with salts to form the base layer on it. So, um, this is a huge format image, and again has been reproduced in giant images. And really,
Mhm.
this picture was taken to, I mean, obviously, from where I'm looking at it right here, as I'm standing at, or as I'm sitting or standing at my computer looking at this image in front of me, it's awesome. It has such a distinct feeling of grandeur and magnificence to me.
Mhm.
Um, I
And
can hear the rushing of that river, you know, and it's such a
and
dynamic, like,
I will say,
again, another,
having stood there, because it's like called Artist's Point or Autist's Point, something like that now. Um,
yeah,
just being able to stand there and smell it. I smell this image. That is
yeah,
how vivid this is, and I have to give Haynes a lot of credit for being able to capture this in such great detail. Because when you come out, there's this vista area, and you stand there, and it's this. Because right now there's some trees grown up around it on either side, so it kind of frames it in for you. But you'd see this image, and it's just so cool that this is the iconic image that Haynes created for this part of the park. He
right.
could flap about a lot of other things with this, but it's just so vivid, and it's in black and white. So that tells you how good he was with
Yep.
getting the contrast of colors and the time of day.
Yeah, it's the I'm not sure why I'm so quiet. I'm turned all the way up on my side. So I'll boost my mic output there through my through back. Anyhow, again, and this is another big, and this is pretty good resolution. You can scan, you can um zoom in on this pretty well, and it's really fine detail on here.
Hmm.
I mean, you can see the trees and everything. But one thing I think is really cool is that at the bottom of the picture, like right where you're saying, you can actually see the front of the outcropping he's standing on to take the photo. And I
Right.
think that's just a really neat detail.
Yeah, because that little bit of
Yeah,
driftwood there. Yeah.
yeah. It's the tip of the outcropping that the camera is sitting on. And it's not huge. So it's not like this camera got is a small dainty thing. This is a giant ass large format camera with a big ass piece of glass in it.
Well, I guess
Perched precariously on a cliff overlooking a waterfall to
that's
bring
at
us
least
this sublime
75 feet
image.
deep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like the shortfall.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely beautiful. So
And
we're
the cool
running
thing
short on
is,
time again,
no,
as usual.
that's
So
that's what we
we'll
do
jump over
here.
to the next one here, right? So the next one, this is another railroad photograph. This one was taken for Northern Pacific Railroad. It's dry plate again, and this was commissioned. It was a commissioned image by Northern Pacific, just to show. It was really meant to showcase this route. And the one thing that I really love about this image that sticks out to me, it looks very similar to places around here,
Mm.
you know. And truth be told, Clarks Forks, Montana, and Idaho like Cascade, Idaho, they share very similar geography.
Mhm.
And this like when I look at this image and I see the railroad, I'm just thinking, oh, the city is like right around the corner, you know? That's kind of how it seems to me. And it was really it makes the image seem like, to me it makes it seem almost modern, and particularly because of how worn out the railroad trestles are.
Mhm.
It looks like it's been used for a little bit, which mean it's not like a super old thing. um but this was one of the showcase routes of the railroad, and of course it would be, because riding in a train along the Clarks Fork River here, just this natural beauty of the river out in the isolated Montana wilderness. I can't think of anything really better. So,
And again, yeah, the fact that this is a black and white image, but it's just so evocative, tells you what
yeah,
you need to know
absolutely.
about how he knew how to frame an image. That's the thing that we don't really focus on as much now, because of digital photography allowing us to take a million photos. And at
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
time, it's like, framing it, picking the time of day for the best contrast, and having the eye to do that in a relatively small period of time. You show up, you figure it out, you figure out how you want to frame it, how you want to light it, and then produce this. It's really magnificent.
Absolutely. And in that vein, we'll jump over to the very last image we're going to talk about, which was yet another. This is the Rock Canyon near Bozeman, taken in 1894. This was another gelatin plate. And the prints on this one range between 9 by 7 to 11 by 14. So good sized prints. This was again taken to document a scenic portion of the railroad for tourists and investors. Like, hey, this is really pretty. Come here. And this image really, because Haynes built he took a lot of pictures along Montana and whatnot, took a lot of pictures of the quote northern route,
Hmm.
and similarly to Russell and Bierstadt, highlighted the beauty of the American West, which forced, or not forced, but
Well, it inspired dreamers, because
built the
it's
exactly, and
like,
that's
hey,
the word I
look
was
at
looking
this. You
for.
you can see this every day if you want to. And to
Absolutely.
sell to the farmers back east that wanted to move out and try their hand at ranching, or the investors who wanted to get into mining or what have you. To see
Right.
this is like, it's mind blowing, because growing up here on the East Coast, you don't see this kind of landscape. But once you get out there, once you get out into the northern Rockies, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, northern Colorado, and then you see this, it's just so magnificent. And to think, when of a time when dreamers would go through and look at old art books and maps and photographs,
Hmm.
and come across this sort of thing and say, I want to go there. This is my destiny. Haynes did so much to
Absolutely.
advance that. So cool.
Absolutely. And again, and like I said, he was contemporary to Bierstadt and Russell. He was one of the people that inspired westward expansion, um, expired that rugged spirit in the Western men um, heed that call to adventure, to conquer that land, to settle that land and make it a place worth living, to take that beauty and and harness it and be able to witness it firsthand and appreciate it. It was really an inspiring thing that these men did. And then, like we said, they're standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
There's been a long and amazing history in the West, um, of not just technological but artistic, development. And so we are, we really are this is kind of the legacy of that, and we really get to get to benefit from it.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's an awesome thing. And
I just don't know if
you know,
we did enough justice, but see, that's the nice thing. With these short episodes, our audience is forced to go and you know, do a little bit of
yeah.
research on their own. Go look at some amazing art, and I think anyone who doesn't think of photography, especially of this era and this skill level, as art, uh, probably needs their head checked.
See, and I think of this as this type of art, this kind of stuff this guy did, you know, it's amazing. It's not, I don't think it's just necessarily art, but it's a technological achievement. You know, it's an accomplishment
Mhm.
beyond just the art. It's really awesome. And I mean that in the turn of like, it's huge and it's something that inspires awe. It's both of those things.
Yeah.
And
Oh
yeah.
yeah. But
And so,
it's something to me, just kind of tying in the threads. Being a good technical artist, whether it's in this format or another, and being just a good artist in general, I don't think we can separate very much. I mean, you had to be able to master the skills to do these things, whether it's with the paintbrush or the glass plate. And I think we get caught up sometimes in the art, not what the artist had to do to get to be able to imagine this landscape or image if it's a
oh,
portrait.
absolutely.
And we've got the benefit of generations of these great masters. And now I can just, throw it into AI and piddle around and have something that doesn't look like complete ass
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
call it art.
uh, we've come a long way, baby.
Oh yeah.
But all right. So with that, we're up against our over our hour. Um, Thank you all for coming out. Maureen on Bleach's channel, LGM, Yiz, Malox. See if I'm missing anybody else on my channel.
I'm not
But
seeing anybody active, but I see there's
yep.
7 viewers on yours and 3 on mine. So
Yeah, there we go.
it's good.
Nice. So we appreciate y'all for showing up. Next week, we're going to kind of jump forward in history a little bit. We're going to go to Edward G. Hopper, who is a post World War II realist American painter, and I think that his art is really, it captures a deep yearning in the American spirit, and I find it hauntingly beautiful, and I believe you guys will too. So join us next week as we talk about Edward G. Hopper. I've been Dave, and we
I've
got
been here, man.
and we appreciate you all, and thank you all for coming out. And
And remember, join us for the next Autist Circle. And in the meantime, go look at some art, damn it.
yep, and happy Thanksgiving, folks. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm on the outro scene online.